Hi, I'm Hazel from Bangalore, India. Welcome to this session on Embedded SRE, a missing piece in the lean culture. Today, I will walk you through my journey with the Site Reliability Engineering Organization, their challenges, and some measures to address those challenges. Professor Edwards Deming, the father of quality, once said, "Transformations are not automatic. They must be learned. They must be led." I'm sure in your careers, in your experience, you have gone through different transitions, transformation journeys, and the industry provides various frameworks to make these journeys a success. But in the SaaS world, the SRE and DevOps organizations don't really fit well into these existing frameworks, always leaving a dilemma between centralized SRE and decentralized SRE. And this dilemma can impact individual performances. It can impact the business outcome, the accountability of the service ownership itself. So in today's presentation, I'll walk you through some of these challenges. And from my experience, what are the measures that we put in place to address these? Now, a little background about myself and why am I talking on this topic today. So the transformation journeys are pretty close to my heart. With change being a constant, you always learn, you always change and evolve. And especially when it comes to an organization, if these transitions are well thought through, well planned, they do execute well and give better results. I am currently a senior principal technical program manager with Palo Alto Networks within the Prisma Cloud organization. My primary responsibilities here include running process improvements and initiatives around portfolio management, DevOps and SRE areas, with a key focus on value delivery. Prior to this, I was a principal TPM with Citrix Systems, where I led initiatives within the cloud service delivery organization. Cisco and NDS, where major part of my career was spent. This is a time and this is a place where the transformation journeys became my passion. During the era where most organizations were transitioning from waterfall to agile, I was part of the leadership team within Cisco that led this agile wave. With that as my background, let us now look at what SRE is all about. What are its practices and principles? Benjamin Traynor, who's the originator of the word SRE, puts it this way. SRE is something that happens when you ask a software engineer to design an operations function. This team or the individuals play a key role as a glue between product's development and its operationalization. SRE in itself is a mindset, it's a culture. And because of the key role that these individuals play, they are expected to have a holistic view of the product, the entire system, the infrastructure, the libraries. They are also accountable for the service reliability in terms of its availability, the cost, the performance, and security. So if you look deeper, truly, these are the superheroes who do it all, who know it all. But in reality, is that the case? This set of individuals are usually overwhelmed with constant context switches, varying priorities, which has a larger impact on their individual performance. At the same time, it also has an impact on the organization's performance, maybe at times certain business impacts. So let us start looking at what are the causes that bring us or bring this SRE organization to this state. Let's have a look at a traditional organization structure. So this is how a traditional organization structure looks like. You have a product organization with multiple self-organizing cross-functional teams. By cross-functional, they usually include the dev, the QA, the UI, etc. And you have the DevOps organization, which has a central SRE team who caters to the needs of all of these product teams, the operations side of it, through a single SRE backlog. Each of these teams do their development and provide the operational request to the SRE team through the centrally allocated backlog. Now, you can see the varying priorities that each of these requests have, and those priorities are set with the context that the product team has, and not really based on where they fit into the SRE backlog. Now, added to this, you have the DevOps organization itself can have its own initiatives and goals around various observability or DevSecOps or infra changes. And all of these items, of course, have to be implemented by each product or each feature. But because they are on the operations side, they again go and sit into the SRE's backlog list. So now you can imagine the various number of tasks, the context from which they originate, the background around prioritizing these, which is totally different. So it can cause a nightmare to anyone. Now, this being the situation, how do we change it? One of the simplest and easiest solution that the industry recommends and we have tried out is decentralized. So with the decentralization, this is how the new product organization, this is how the new organization looks like. You don't have a central SRE team anymore. You do not have a single backlog of tasks to be operated by this team anymore. Rather, the SREs themselves have gone and embedded into the product teams. And there is the product backlog or the Scrum team backlog, which caters to not only development, but seeing an end-to-end deployment of that feature, which simplifies a lot of complexities that we saw in the previous structure. To highlight on a few, the ownership of the product itself is moved to the feature team, which means with ownership comes accountability. So the product team has the complete freedom to decide in what priority they want to execute each of these tasks. There is a single backlog, so no confusion. And it's the product team that is fully in control of what goes out from the team. It's from the way I've portrayed the organizational structure, it looks pretty simple, right? You have a central team. Now, as part of your transformation, break it into individuals and move those individuals to respective Scrum teams. But is it so simple? So based on what I've seen in the past and the transition journeys that I've gone through, this entire transformation needs a well thought through plan. And that is what we are going to look at. So the whole transition is divided into 5 phases or 5 waves, starting from team alignment, change management, resources and tools, rolling out the actual transition, and finally measuring. Let's go deep into each of these areas and see what they have in store, which each of you can take back with you today. The first one is the team alignment. Now, with a new structure to the team, because there's a new person who has joined, a new engineer in your team, you need to look at different aspects of how your team operates, starting with the roadmap visibility itself. So when you have a visibility into what is lying ahead, every stakeholder, every player can plan things better. So making the strategy, the vision, the product goal, and the roadmap available to every engineer, you can plan ahead. Operations become a part of the design through the grooming stages. Then comes your single backlog. So single backlog is something we already spoke about. This is to reinforce the ownership and accountability within the cross-functional team. Then is the working agreement. Now, in Scrum, especially when you bring in Agile, Scrum, and self-organizing teams, working agreement is one of the primary needs that you put first. With the change in your team's structure now, you may need to revisit some of these rules that you've written down earlier, maybe the meeting cadence, maybe your definition of done. All of these need a secondary look. Finally, the capacity planning. So again, an essential piece that we do at the sprint planning. A little emphasis on capacity planning for the SRE itself, because based on how large or small your organization is, it is not necessary that you have a one-to-one mapping between a team and an SRE. So it is possible that this embedded SRE is embedded into multiple teams based on the nature of work that you do. There are also other areas where the SRE gets pulled into, like on-call, incident management, different organizational initiatives. So it's essential that the SRE takes stock of various items that he or she is involved in and looks back at the past sprints and comes up with a clear capacity allocation and makes it known to the team. So with that being in place, in case the team has a requirement for higher need or time or bandwidth from the SRE, and the SRE is not able to fulfill that, there is always a scope to ask other team members to step up to take up this role or take up some of these responsibilities with hand-holding by the SRE himself. So this is all about team alignment. Let's look at the next wave, which is change management. When you had a centralized SRE team, the control was within that team. The control, be it making deployments, changing any production infrastructure, or various access and permissions. But now, with your SRE team dissolved and it's being decentralized, of course, the control also expands and moves to individual teams. Having said that, we have a common jargon, which we say trust but verify. So while you let go of part of the control, you also want to ensure that it doesn't impact your systems by anybody and everybody doing changes, which could lead to potential downtimes as well. So put in place a change management system that allows certain approval workflows, different SLAs to ensure there are no bottlenecks, but also bring in a sense of control and limits. The third phase is resources and tools. So in this section, we are going to look at the resources and tools used for the transition, not really used by the SREs themselves. So the first and foremost is the dashboards. The dashboards are an essence or a backbone of operations. So make sure everything that goes behind the scenes is available and visible in terms of dashboards to the entire team. So there is no room for ambiguity as to what's happening, where the systems are. Then comes the documentation. Of course, SREs always have their run books ready. Apart from run books, all of the other information and resources that usually is known as SRE only information, make it available to your team members. So they stop or they reduce interrupting you for every little information that's required. It's also essential that you train this newly joined SRE in your team around the product and its expectations, so the SRE gels well within the team. Definition of done and definition of ready are two very important aspects when we talk about self-organizing teams. Definition of ready points at, are you ready to execute this feature or this story? And in this case, because the roadmap is already visible and your SRE is with you to plan the operations need, you can redefine what definition of ready looks like for your team. Same goes for the definition of done as well, because now operationalizing and running the product in the cloud is your team's responsibility. Make sure that you update your definition of done to cover the entire pipeline. And with this change in structure, with so many changes coming in the way you operate, use Jira customization. If Jira is your backlog management tool, there's plenty of options to introduce new fields, new workflows, new issue types that suit your needs. One of the important topics we spoke about in the team alignment is making the roadmap visible. Now, the Jira Advanced Roadmap gives you this capability, very well thought through visualization of where your team lies, where is your roadmap, where are you in the timeline right now, what is the status, what are the dependencies. And finally, the change management tool is the Jira Service Management, which comes fully packaged to introduce any kind of workflows, approval workflows, or the SLAs. So these are some of the very top of the mind resources and tools that I've put together. I'm sure there are more based on each of your individual experiences, and this list can go on and on. Now comes the fun part, the fourth and the most crucial phase, which is rolling out the transition itself. You start by doing some awareness campaigns. I'm sure your stakeholders by now are well aware that this transition is coming their way, but it always helps to communicate and over-communicate with all aspects of this change. How does it impact various teams and stakeholders? So make use of your existing communication channels to get enough publicity. You could also run office hours to address any issues or clarifications that the teams need. Second, you can pilot with a few teams. So pick a few teams that are performing really well so far. See if you can pilot with them. And this helps you identify some of the blind spots which you may not have discovered during your planning phase. Then comes the most crucial part of this phase itself, which is having this entire transition plan put into your product roadmap, product development roadmap. You and your organization need to treat the transition journey just like any other feature development or product development. This needs resources, this needs bandwidth, this has cost, this also has risks. The risks not only on the success of transformation, but it will also add new risks to your existing feature development because there could be constraints added, there could be slowness in the velocity. So having the transition roadmap itself put in your product development cycle makes it much easier to execute. Finally, when the time comes, group the teams and do the switch and see the magic happening. So with that, we come to the last phase, which is measuring. Now, you've taken your entire organization to this massive change. You, of course, need to see the impact of this change. Is it really impactful? Are there lessons learned that you want to take back and tweak your system? So these are the few things or few metrics that you can use to measure. Of course, you start with the team velocity itself. With the change in structure, with the change in goal of the team, there will be a downside to the velocity to start with. So the teams can go back into their storming, norming phases and take a few sprints to come back to performing. But once they are in that performance state, it should always be an upward journey. And that's a real good indicator to see if the system that you put in place is working or not. Apart from this, you have your product quality and performance metrics. You have your observability metrics, operations metrics. Keep a tab on all of these to see if there is a change, a positive change, or a negative change. And if there is a negative change, do an RCA, see what is it that has gone wrong, and try and make those fixes. Service level indicators, service level objectives, and error budgets is a very good means to bring in the accountability within the functional teams or the Scrum teams. These indicators and the measurement objectives would actually help the team to give equal importance to feature development and also the reliability. So have them in place, introduce these concepts. Finally, it's the feedback. Talk to the stakeholders who've gone through this transition, the teams, the individual SREs. If there is a chance and if your customers are aware that you did this transition, talk to them and you get real candid feedback that can be put back into the system. So these were the 5 phases in which you define and complete your transformation journey. Now, each transformation journey is unique. You need to identify your key issues and set a goal that you want to achieve with your organization. Define the phases or the waves for change. Add these to the organization's backlog. And finally, pilot, switch, and measure. So that was the entire transformation journey, the experiences. I would like to end this session by calling out a few references. So during the transition phase, and also while preparing for this presentation, the SRE handbook from Google has been very handy. There is also a blog, there's also a website which has multiple blogs that give the key challenges or the ground challenges that the SRE and the DevOps organizations face. So do make use of them. I would like to give credit to my mentors, to my partners in my current and previous organization. During these journeys that we have executed, there has been a huge amount of learning, and I'm very thankful to them because of their partnership that I'm able to put this presentation together today. And finally, if you want to get more information, my LinkedIn profile is available here. Do reach out and let's make the best use of available time and resources. With that, I'm signing out. Happy transformation.